It's all about redemption. And everyone deserves that opportunity, right? To redeem themselves. If I'm in a, I don't know how long the two of you took, well, you mentioned 20 years, right? But if I'm with someone 5, 10 years, and I don't know when the cheating on your end or his end happened, but if I'm with someone 20 years, 10 years, and in year two, there's infidelity on one side or both, and we can overcome that, why wouldn't we want to get to year 10 or
Exactly.
year 20, especially if year one was so good? And I think your therapist, and you made a good point, is that any time when something goes wrong in a relationship, this is what usually happens. One finger gets pointed that way, another finger gets pointed this way,
Hmm.
right? It's always, well, it's not me, it's you. We're arguing with this. Anytime I'll get, you know, when I get into an argument with someone that I'm dating, or the person I'm dating, I'm at fault. Even though the person is the one that's causing the argument, like they've actually done something,
Hmm.
I'm at fault because you have a choice. And this is what I think a lot of people don't understand. You don't have to react the way you're going to react, right? You have a choice. You can either ignore, which long term isn't healthy because then you're not addressing whatever the issue is, right? Or
Exactly.
two, you can say that, you know what, this you've done this. I was deeply hurt about it. Can we have a conversation? When you have that conversation, you can say that, you know what, this is what I felt when you did this to me,
Hmm.
and I didn't like the way it felt. But you know what? I acknowledge that maybe I played a role in that. How can we come together to make it better? I think that conversation is missing.
That conversation is missing. That conversation is hard because, I'll be the first to say, you know how it feels when you're upset, when you're angry. And getting to that point, learning how to calm yourself down to not let the situation escalate like that is extremely, extremely hard. And like you said, ignoring it is not good because ignoring it is only going to make the situation worse. That's why communication is extremely important, no matter how small or how big. You have to communicate with your partner. If you're feeling some type of way, if you're not happy about something, communication is always important. And, I wanted to piggyback on something you said. Yes, those some type of emotional, physical, or some type of negative abuse is what make people not talk to each other. And, you know, when it comes to physical abuse, of course, we all know that can definitely get deep in the conversation. I definitely feel every person has an opportunity to redeem themselves. Um, I've never been in any physical abuse, and I'm not promoting anyone to stay in any physical situation. It's more of a matter, what we're saying is how do you still forgive the person and I guess continue to speak to them and realizing that was a part of my life that's done, it's over with. I can at least amicably still speak to you and not get so upset or so emotional when I see you. But that takes an extreme amount of healing. It takes an extreme, and that's what I feel like we don't do enough. We don't want to speak to people about our problems because there's shame attached to it. You know, do you know how how many people will not share their story because they don't want to be judged by whatever crisis or trauma they've been in? And a lot of people I interviewed, that's one thing they will say is, I don't want people to judge me, you know? And that's one reason that it took them, he or she, so long to share their story, because of judgment, because of shame attached to it, because we make the person feel like such a terrible person.
Yeah,
But
shame and judgment is, they're two acts that can destroy the strongest of people. They
yeah,
prevent people from starting their own business.
oh
They
yeah,
prevent people from pursuing their goals. They prevent people from dating and or marrying someone that they know that is truly compatible and
Yeah.
quote unquote right for them,
Yep.
because they look at it and it says, if I start this business and it doesn't do as well in the beginning as I want it to, how are people going to view me? If I go with this person and they may not have a six-figure job,
Hmm.
how are people going to look at me?
Yep.
Right? If I want to leave my corporate job and do stand-up comedy, how are my peers that I'm leaving behind going to view me?
Yep.
You ask yourself these questions, right? And then once you start asking yourself these questions, you're beginning to live your life through the eyes of someone else. And once you start to do that, the shame sets in because you're no longer living your life through your eyes. You're living your life through someone else's eyes, and you want to meet their version of you instead of living the version of yourself.
Being more confident in our decisions, that's a struggle for many people because we are always battling our own decisions in our mind. Is this the right decision? Or how is my family or my friends going to think? Well, if I do this, they're going to think like, well, why are you still with him? But no one knows what's best for you other than you. You understand? No one knows what's best for you other than you. There's no way I'm going to know what's best for you. Only you know that. So why does it matter what I think about what's best for you? It doesn't matter. But that's how we think. That's how we think. And that's one of the big issues too, I think, with when it comes to relationships, when things go bad,
Mhm.
judgment. And it's not always judgment, because if you know there's something that you're not comfortable with, that's okay. You can leave. But, and I'd like to say this is one main reason I stayed in my relationship. It wasn't only because I had cheated, so I know what it felt like to be on the other side. But I also asked myself the question is, what makes the next individual better than my husband? Let's say he cheated on his ex. Let's say he was physically abusive and he changed his life. You know what? If everything else is working out, but now we've run into this situation, could it, we make it work? Take a step back and think, what went wrong? Why are we going astray from each other? At one point, we were head over heels of each other, but what's happening in our relationship? We have to take a step back, peel those layers, and find out what's going on. Because each relationship that you're with, it's not that one person is better than the next, and there are genuinely speaking, there are people out there that are just, they make poor decisions, they're bad and they're controlling, and totally understand that. But people have to be more confident in their decision. You have to know what you want to, because if you know something is unhealthy and you don't want it, then it's okay for you to step away. But don't judge someone else for what they choose to do in their life. If they are comfortable, why can't you be comfortable? How does that affect the way you live?